Hi, how's it going everybody? My name is Jordan, also known as J-Monster, and I want to thank you for joining me for another Third Age Reforged replay battle. I hope you enjoyed our last game. I think we're going to be playing on the same map, or one very, very close to it, but with a different mix of factions. This one is going to be a 4 versus 4, and of course we're on 0.97, because I know you guys are hungry for some more 0.97 information. I would like to preface this video with the fact that I am actually collecting questions for a Q&A. If you guys have any questions regarding 2.97, things that I can answer, as long as it's not when is it coming out, will X and Y unit be good, because those are questions that there are simply no answer to right now. I can't give you an answer on the release date just because I would not be able to stand behind that date, and I know that really upsets people when we give a date and we aren't able to meet it because of whatever reason. And I can't tell you if X, Y, and Z unit is going to be good because there are too many variables to that question that I couldn't possibly cover them in just a simple answer. So, barring those types of questions, if you guys have any interest in the new factions, there's going to be a new surprise coming out in the next little while, and I imagine many of you will have questions about it. So when you guys finally get your hands, or your eyes, I suppose, on that, then yeah, absolutely, leave some questions down in the comments. I will be collecting them. I do look at a whole bunch of different videos, so even if you see me in the comment section of You My Commanders videos or Gondorian Smiths videos, then feel free to ask, because we will be doing a lot of this live on Twitch like we did last year, and yeah, just there's going to be a whole lot of stuff going into the build-up up until Christmas. We have a Christmas tournament that's going on. If you guys need some more information about that, I'll put that down in the description. You My Commander also summed it up quite succinctly, so I'd recommend you go and take a look at the related video on his channel. But what I can give you is just one moment, because I left my freaking Discord on again. I am the worst, so unprofessional. But what I can tell you is that we are collecting donations to give to charity. The charity will be specified by the winning team, and as long as it's an accredited charity, then we will honor that request. If it's not, then I have a whole bunch of really good causes that I think are worth investing in. One of them is Operation Smile, Habitat for Humanity, Convoy for Hope, Doctors Without Borders, things like that. So if you guys are interested, link down in the description. But we'll say no more about that for now, because I know you guys want to see what's going on in this video. So let's take a look at some of the army comps now, and then we can finally, at long last, jump into the replay itself. I hope you guys enjoy it. So the first army we're going to look at today is being commanded by yours truly. Now, Gondor, there's been a lot of back and forth about Gondor. Some people like Gondor in their current iteration on 0.97. Some people think that they need some more stuff in order to be truly viable. I personally fall into the former camp. I like the way that Gondor is right now, and I think that going forward, what we're going to try and balance around isn't going to be your 1v1 field battles on grassy plains, and I know that's going to be upsetting for a lot of people, but I can explain my reasoning on that in the comments if you like. But I think it is sound, and I think that team dynamics are more interesting and allow us to maximize diversity among the factions and among playstyles, and keep everybody unique. I mean, if we're going to balance around 1v1s, we're going to have to pretty well necessarily give everybody the same basic set of tools. But I don't want to do that. I think that would not serve the mod in the long term very well. I think that everyone needs to be different, and then if you need to fill in gaps in your roster or in your unit capabilities, then a teammate is a great thing to use. And I'm drawing a lot of inspiration here from a lot of very prominent team games. Not necessarily, okay, I say this, when I say draw inspiration, I am looking at certain design decisions that they make. This does not mean that I'm trying to make the games exactly to this, or that Reforged is now going to be an esport, so calm your tits. All I'm saying is that I'm looking at games like Dota or like Overwatch that have very distinct, in this case heroes, but in our case it will be factions, that all play differently and that can all be unique, and then when you put them together, that's where the real magic happens. So I personally want to move forward with that as a philosophy. I think that Reforged is ultimately at its best when it is a team game. So yeah, that's what I want to try and maximize, the amount of fun that you can have with your friends, which in the abstract sounds like a really good idea, but I know that some people out there are going to take issue with that. So let me just say that I hear you, but this is a considered change. In any case, My Gondor army. We're finally getting there. I have 2 units of Gondor cavalry, and you'll notice that the models are a little bit different. That's because we've updated them with Taro's mods, which are so damn good that he's made them, I think, in like 2011, and nobody has felt the need to update them. So that really speaks for itself, I suppose. A little bit of lag there. So I have 2 units of Gondor cavalry, 1, 2. They are spear cavalry still, even though you're going to see them pull out swords in this replay. Don't panic. They are still spear cavalry. They're going to be getting a spear attachment in the next build. It's just new models, and these are little details that sometimes get overlooked. So I got some Gondor infantry here, looking real snazzy with their full armor upgrades. I'm really having some latency issues, and I don't understand why. It's not latency, it's computer performance issues. My computer's embarrassed. We haven't made a video in so long. I got some Axemen of Sarnak here who have a new model. At least I think it's a new model. I believe it's updated with Taro's model, which made just previously from DAC, but the DAC ones might have been Taro's models, so who knows? I haven't done a study, so don't quote me. Got some Gondor Spearmen here. Ugh. That frame drop, I don't know why that's a thing. Got some Gondor Spearmen. Some Ramasekor Garrison Archers of Ramasekor. Yeah, that's one thing to note, is that you're going to see a lot of new names. We have taken a lot of feedback into account. A lot of people were like, what are these elven names? I can't pronounce this. This is madness. Well, we've taken that into account, and we've redone, I think, about 10% of the names, maybe 15% of the names total. So you're going to see things like the Forebearers of Valkyria, or Valakirka, which I believe is the sickle of the Valar. And this is the formerly known as the Osgiliath Pikemen, or the Osgiliath Guard, or something like that. They're a little bit more elite, a little bit smaller, but consequently they are better, and they have more staying power. Got some Fountain Guard here, new Fountain Guard models. That's going to make everyone, I'm sure, real moist. Look at that. They're beautiful. Black and gold instead of black and purple, as they were previously. Ramasekor Garrison Archers also got Marksmen of Karandros. We have a nice new model. Very similar to the Citadel Guard Spearmen, but that's okay. And currently, they still use two-handed swords, but they have a one-handed sword model, so that's, again, just kind of growing pains from adding all these new things in. That will change. Absolutely, it will change. And they will be getting two-handed sword. I already spoke to Sin about it, so I know it's going to happen. Gondor Spearmen. 2 units of Gondor Spearmen, 2 units of the Axemen of Sarnak, 2 units of Gondor Infantry for my center to pair with my Forebearers of Valakirka. And then, what else we got here? Got some Veterans of Osgiliath who have gotten a nice buff. These guys are going to be using their first level of armor upgrade, but once you upgrade them, they look very, very similar to the rest of the Taro's units, except for the fact that they have shields, and it's very easy to delineate them by that feature alone. And they've gotten, I think, 1 extra melee defense and like 2 extra damage, so they're like 9 or 10 damage. So they're worth $1,000 price tag now, in my opinion, and they certainly perform very well in this battle. I think that's it for my army. I don't have any hidden things like Rangers. This is a very tanky army, and you'll see why, given who I'm facing. Moving on over here, we have the Witch Realm of Angmar being commanded by Lango. He's got a couple units of Warg Riders. Not a ton to say about Angmar. I think they're finally getting to a place where I'm pretty satisfied with them. Not everyone's going to agree with that, of course. Nobody ever does, but I personally like the direction that Angmar is going in, and some of their key units got some buffs, so we'll talk about that. So we got some Trolls of Gundabad here, Guardians of Karn Doom, who got an extra point of damage. I think they're now at 10 from 9. Got some Angmar Halberds, Witch Realm Scourge Raiders, who now have a couple throwing axes that they toss before they get themselves stuck in, and this is going to be what they look like with their armor upgrade. And that jet black armor, very fitting of the Witch Realm's finest. I got some Gundabad Guard over here as well. More Guardians of Karn Doom. Oh yeah, the Gundabad Guard. Check. Oh, well, I guess they don't have their new armor upgrade, but you can upgrade them twice. And I think it's only 1 new model, but currently you can upgrade them twice. We have some floating Trolls of Angmar here, who have apparently reached Zen in the Dark Cult of Mordor, and they're just able to float off the ground. Kind of funny. They will be getting some new models, as will the Trolls of Gundabad, so if those are looking a little dated to your eyes, well, don't worry, we are in the process of fixing them. Got some Guardians of Karn Doom. That's a 3rd unit of Guardians of Karn Doom. We got some Warg Riders. So altogether, it's a pretty small Angmar force. He's got some Snaga Stalkers as well, which I believe is where his general is going to be. And there's some hidden units of Bowmen, so not quite as large as you'd expect from Angmar normally, but it is a little bit more substantial than what it appears. Moving on over here, and this just makes me so happy. DI, King of the North, can be playing as one of his favorite, actually I think his favorite faction overall. He's going to be playing as Rohan. Got some Riddermark Cavalry here with our snazzy new models. So beautiful. Yes. Got some Riddermark skirmishers over here who are melee cav and jav cav hybrids with two-handed axes. So I've seen some comments recently, and I think I addressed this directly in a video previous to this, but I'm going to say it again. Yes, Rohan does have melee cavalry. What they do have more of is lancers. So yes, they have lots of lancers, but they do have some melee cavalry options, mostly in the form of hybrids or their knights. So Riddermark skirmishers, the Red Shield of Erkenbrand, and the Sons of the Earl are all melee cavalry, so they're not completely helpless when it comes to fighting factions like Khand. Got some Aelred of Aldburg here, looking real sexy with their new models, courtesy of Cowrin Koma. Always a pleasure to see his work. Got some Eastmark Horse Archers over here. I'm not sure. Look, so there's the two Rohan Horse Archers, and since they got their new models, I can never really tell them apart anymore. But I think this is the lower tier one. A little bit more numerous, and then the other one is a little bit more heavily armored with shields and such. Got some civilians. It's really funny. I heard DI talking about how people call Rohan peasants, so I guess this is why he's bringing so many civilian units, just to maximize that feature of the faction, if you will. Shield Maidens of Eowyn, a couple units of them there, Axe Throwers, Riddermark Archers, Eastmark Spearmen. Worth noting that they have two javelins that they throw now. They're lower tier javelins, so they aren't going to replace javelin units, and it's not really the same as Rohan having a dedicated jav unit. But it is kind of a nice little feature, and one that initially I was very opposed to, and now that I've seen it in practice, I find that it's actually kind of okay. So yeah, personally, I've been converted. I didn't used to like the idea of them having javelins, but now I think that it's alright. Riddermark Archers, I think we saw them. Ah, yes. Westmark Marshals, very, very deadly shock infantry. Another unit of civilians, more Westmark Marshals. And then we get into the really meaty part of the cavalry. You got the Red Shield of Erkenbrand that I mentioned earlier, Eastmark Horse Archers, and some Sons of Eorl, who currently don't have a new model. It may be that Koma is satisfied with the one that they have, but if I know Koma, and I have seen his work and I've spoken to him, he will probably want to update them, just because he likes to kind of push boundaries a little bit, which is excellent. I got Eomer leading them as well, which, you know, I don't think I feel like I knew this, but I didn't really know it until I've seen him in there now. Now I won't forget. Then move on over here. We have Dol Amroth, who has got some really cool new units in the patch. And they're going to be commanded by Rules 1. Pardon me. He's got some Knights of the Silver Swan, some Parathil Horse Guard, one of the new units. Very sexy. I love masks. And Sin loves masks, so it's a very productive thing when I get to pitch units to Sin, and he's like, should they have masks? I'm like, yeah, they should have masks. It's beautiful. Got some Haven Knights here as well. Parathil Randirum, which is the bow equivalent of the Parathil Horse Guard. One notable feature of these units is that unlike most Horse Archer units, who have a penalty, I believe it's -2 versus other cavalry, and wargs and elephants, etc., the Parathil Randirum do not. So that's kind of cool. Moving on over here, we got the Guards of the Havens, otherwise known as the Haven Guard. A little bit of a new name. Yeah, they're the same old Haven Guard. They're wonderful. Everybody loves the Haven Guard. Knights of the Silver Swan, I think this is a unit that has kind of languished in obsolescence for a little while. But that is no longer, at least I think that's no longer the case. They've gotten some extra shield value. They've gotten some extra melee defense, I think a little bit of extra damage in melee. And they cost 925 as opposed to 1,000. So now they are a very formidable heavy lancer, not easy to shoot down. Speaking of heavy lancers, this is the second knight unit available to Dol Amroth. A little bit smaller. Their melee defense is a bit higher than the Haven Guard. They don't have as high of an anti-cavalry bonus, but as you can see, they have big, long sticks with which to murder their enemies. So they have a proper charge bonus like other knight units, but it is expensive to bring them. They cost about 1,400, and there's, I think, 10 less men in the unit than there is for a normal knight. So it's a bit of a trade-off. There are some benefits that come with being a smaller unit. You're a little bit more maneuverable, generally a bit more responsive, that sort of thing. But we'll see how it works out for them here. Tirthair Lancers, currently on 0.96, I believe they're known as the Dornernal Lancers. I could be wrong about that. But they might be getting a new model. They might be more visually akin to the Tirthair units that their name represents. So we'll see what happens with that. And up here we've got another unit, a Parathil Randirum. Ton of civilians. And I know he's got some hidden Rangers in here who simply have a new name. They don't have a new model. But the Nimrodel Rangers, I think they're now called like the Dismounted Parathil Randirum, or like Wanderers of Nimrodel. That's what it is. Yeah, they're the Wanderers of Nimrodel, and they're in here somewhere. So that does it for Team Blue. Let's go ahead and see what the opposite team has brought to the battle today. Across the field from Dolaroth, we have the forces of Arthedain being commanded by Recreus. He's got a couple units of Evendim Archers, 1, 2, going to be forming the front line of his skirmishing corps. Got some Arthedain Marksmen as well, 2 units of Arthedain Marksmen, Evendim Spearmen, I believe 1, 2, 3 units of Evendim Spearmen, and then a couple units of dismounted Fornoster Rain Knights in the back as well. Got some Dunedain Mounted Company, no longer Lancers, but now they are melee cavalry, with a fairly substantial pool of melee defense. They are, however, lacking in shield and armor value, so arrows can be an absolute nightmare for them, especially horse archers. So they don't have the 2 HP of wargs, but honestly, they're such a strong unit. A lot of bonus versus cavalry, and the melee defense helps keeps them alive once they get into close quarters, despite their lightly armored nature. Got some Dunedain Peacekeepers over here, a new medium-tier light infantry pick to support the Arthedain Phalanx, which doesn't look like it's going to be making an appearance in the battle today, which is interesting. Good to see people experimenting with different builds. Got a catapult as well, really nicely situated up here on this hill. It's very well poised to give the army of Dolaroth hell, at least in the opening volleys. Once that cav gets moving, it's going to be nearly impossible for that catapult to hit them. And then in the back, we have the Royal Court of House Amlythe. And this is a new reskin for them, done by Cowering Coma. I've heard someone call them the Lamborghini of cav units of Middle-earth, and I'm inclined to agree. They look very slick, very strong as well, and that's where the general is going to be hanging out today. And I think he might have some Grey Company hidden around here as well. This is definitely not all of his army. It's quite small. It's probably got some hidden units somewhere. A couple of Troll Slayers and Dunedain Rangers, that's what I would expect. And of course, the Knights of Inuminas. Looking a little bit dirty. Again, I find myself reiterating this a lot, and I'm sure for those of you that have watched my videos, basically every time that they come out, this is not going to be news. But I know that people aren't satisfied with the weather effects. We are looking at fixing them or potentially removing them if we can't find a fix that we're satisfied with. So yes, we have a lot of beautiful models, and yes, it can be a shame when they get a little bit dirty like this. But I think that it's okay if it is tied to combat. So units will get bloody while in combat, and those textures will then show up on the models. People are fine with that. So I think that combining blood and dirt together is, 1, immersive, and 2, not anything out of the ordinary, and is certainly a better way than it is applied right now. But in any case, let's move on now to his ally. We have the forces of Harad being commanded by Inksvitz. He's got some Serpent Guard here. If you guys aren't aware of the buffs the Serpent Guard have received, they've got a little teeny bit smaller by about... Okay, so it's not a teeny bit. They have had 65 men in the unit. They've gone down to 50. But they've got a substantial melee defense pool, and their damage while in close quarters is way better. And Lancer units generally, they have a -3 versus Horsemen, but I've actually reversed that for every Lancer unit in the game, so that they have -2. So it's not reversed. I should say diminished that. So it's -2 instead of -3. So Lancers generally have got a nice buff, and the Serpent Guard have certainly made out very well in this new patch. Got some Haradrim Spearmen here as well. Some Haradrim Raiders, more Haradrim Spearmen in the front, a couple units of Southron Archers, some Southron Warband AP Spears. There are more of them in the game now than there used to be, but this is still a fairly rare combination. Dismounted Serpent Guard with their new model, not their new model, with their armor upgrade, which will probably change a little bit so that they don't look just like Black Serpents. I know the Cowering Coma is working on some changes for the Serpent Guard generally, so I think that that's where you're going to see that happen. We have the Mahood Beast Hunters, which I believe is drawn directly from the works of Peter Jackson, the original name I think that they gave to the Haradrim units and to the sort of costumes of the people you'd see driving Mumakil was Mahood, which I did not know. So that's why it is the way it is now. Mahood Beast Hunters, which is going to take me a long time to get used to. I'm going to call them, like, Muhad until the end of time. Dismounted Serpent Guard again, Mahood Beast Hunters. I got some Black Serpents, the Black Serpents, which is a way cooler name, I think, than the Black Serpent Bodyguard. Mumakil, of course, I'm sure you've seen them towering imposingly in the background. Another unit of the Haradrim Raiders, and I think he's got some Hashari Stalkers around here as well. So very much a chaff force that's going to depend a lot on its cavalry. And of course he's got a very solid core here in the form of the Serpent Guard, who are, I think, like 15 morale and really strong elite infantry at this point. They're far smaller and a good deal more expensive than what they used to be, so that is a change that people will have to acclimatize themselves to, but I think it's overall better than having them be a mid-tier unit. I think they are much more suitable as an elite. So here we have the Riders of Bruinen, formerly known as the Imladris Riders. Riders of the Bruinen, which is the river that sweeps away the Nazgul when they try to cross into Elven territory in the first book. Got some Norityrna warriors. Now, one important thing to note that's happened to Imladris in this last build is that I am, as I spoke earlier... Ooh, 1 second, guys. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit of a cold. 'Tis the season. As I spoke earlier about specializing factions and maximizing diversity, that also means that I need to tone back in areas where factions are simply good at everything. So Imladris has gotten some nice buffs this patch, namely 25 armor upgrades. It's gotten a little bit more expensive to try and compensate. Again, I apologize. But the Norityrna warriors and Imladris archers in general have lost a little bit of their ammunition pool, but consequently they've been made better in melee because Imladris is more about their cavalry and their infantry units than they should be, at least in my opinion, about archers. So Imladris has lost a little bit of their skirmishing potential, but their close quarters potential has been increased. So the Norityrna got +1 MD and +1 attack. Sorry again. So I apologize to continuously clear in my throat and your ear, but that's how it's got to be. Archers of Rivendell, formerly known as the Eldar Quinga, something like that. They've got a little bit more melee defense. And over here we have some Imladris sentries, a really solid front line composed of we've got some guardians here, Imladris guardians, and some. I think they're spears of Rivendell now. They used to be something else. A really solid core here, pikes on the wings. And then, of course, we've got the Keepers of Aeglos. And these guys are heroes in this battle. Like, absolutely 300 style shit that happens. Elder Rinway Standard Bearers, formerly known as the Elder Rinway Herumairo, I believe. And over here we've got is that more Riders of the Bruinen? 2 units of Riders of the Bruinen. And 1 unit of Elder Rinway Standard Bearers. And, of course, the Doomsmen of Varda, formerly known as the Gwythi Rockdor. A little bit easier for you guys to wrap your tongues around Doomsmen of Varda, I think. Varda being the Vala goddess most highly revered by the High Elves. And over here, we have the 4th and final Red Team army. This is the Realm of Mirkwood, being commanded by Grimm. He's got a ton of Forest Warden Chaff units here. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4. And he's got a lot of hidden units. I'm going to try and remember them. He's got some Elders of the Elven King, who I think have a new projectile in this patch. We are going to be adding some more new projectiles to the game, kind of just generally. And finally, the Ents. The Ents have texture, so they're no longer Silver Surfers, and they're going to be mixed in with a Palace Guard. A very nasty combination indeed. This is a game-winning combination here if you cannot shut it down. Then we have some Sindar of the Girdle, formerly known as, I don't know, something big and long and complex, which will be condemned to the annals of history henceforth. I got some Sindar of the Girdle. I think they have a shield value now, but they don't have a shield on the model, but that will be coming in the next patch. So yes, they have, I believe, 6 shield value, and it's got a ton of hidden archers here. I think at least 2 Hiri Peng, 1 Aradirath Amonlank, who may have a different name now, 3 units of the hidden archer unit, whose elven name I can't remember, but now they are the Sylvan Patrol. Altogether, a very skirmish-heavy army. Not a ton of elite infantry, but I don't think that that's what they were going for here. I think it's more of a support army in terms of the ranged units that they're going to use to support Imladris. But that's going to do. That is all the army comps. One final sweep over the battlefield here, as you can see all of the players. And then let's get into it. I hope you guys enjoy it. So immediately upon the gates opening, you can see most of the cavalry force of Dol Amroth riding out towards their ally, and I'm going to be doing the same thing on my side, because as I mentioned earlier, teamwork I think is a really important aspect of this game, and so I've been playing a lot of my replays thus, moving all of my stuff immediately over to my ally so that we can make a concerted push together and make up for the relative strengths and weaknesses of both of our factions by combining our strengths, and it makes a much harder block to break down. I've found that even factions that people don't have very high opinions of can do extremely well when you use them in a support capacity. So that's what I'm trying to do a little bit in more recent games, and try and at least get people familiar with the idea of doing that. Anyway, across the way from my Angmar ally here, Imladris is holding the line. Look at that. They're just hunkered down in this phalanx of elven steel and spears. That's going to be a nightmare for us to have to push through. But Angmar, being the rush faction that they are, and having my Gondorian warriors on their second rank, they are going to move forward with everything they got. Angmar is going to go full bore at the forces of Imladris. I've got a couple units of my Gondorian cavalry sweeping onto our left wing in order to position them such that they can potentially be a threat. Their charge isn't amazing, but I can use them in support of my allies' wargs to deal with some of these really heavily armored and very elite elven units in the form of the Doomsmen of Varda and the Elder Rinway Standard Bearers. Popping across the battlefield, you can see the forces of Arthedain not really having an obvious target that presents itself to them. So they're going to move forward and try and threaten the wing of Rohan and Dol Amroth combined. Maybe try and whittle down some of this famous cavalry from the warriors of Dol Amroth. And we got over here, we got the Guards of the Haven hanging out with the rest of the Rohirrim. We have the Keepers of the Golden Hall. Did I mention them? Oh yeah, well they're here too. A lot of jabs and thrown weapons on the Rohan side. Rules shifting his cavalry back and forth, mostly in response to his to the movements of his enemies. Got some Tirithera Lancers moving forward. Don't know what they're planning to accomplish here out on their own. They're definitely within range of the Haradrim skirmishing forces. There's some horse archers over there that could really give them a lot of trouble. And of course the Arthedain marksmen up on their hill can have no problem popping a few volleys into the Tirithera Lancers. I think we're going to see a fair amount of them fall now that they've turned their back. Oh, look at the arrows pour in. That's going to be a costly little micro mistake there from Rules. Look at that. The casualties continue to mount the longer those units stay within range. But this is where it gets really fun. The Angmar forces colliding into the Elven line. Ooh, I quite like this. I'll get a screenshot of that. And Peak is doing his best to try and hold back the storm, but we have moved in together. Palace Guard here fighting with the Barrow Whites, also bogging down the Ents and a little bit of the Mirkwood Chaff infantry. Seems like we've got some Hiri Peng who have shown themselves as well. And once the Elven Archers come out of hiding, I'm going to immediately rush up here, both with some supporting units, but also with my highly trained archers. Units like the Marksmen of Kaer Andros and all bow units 6 and above have gotten pretty significant boosts to their accuracy. That only applies to foot archers, however. That was not the case for horse archers, who I feel are pretty well fine as they are since they have a higher rate of fire. My Fountain Guard rushing forward, trying to take place behind the shield wall of my Gondor Spear Lords to minimize the casualties that I know are going to be coming their way. And you can already see the Mirkwood forces trying to target down my Fountain Guard. Not going to let them do it easily, though. Axemen of Sarnak, everything positioning itself where it needs to be, where I'm expecting my enemies to come from. And now that I've taken this hill position, I'm going to be able to just rain down death and destruction upon my enemy. Unfortunately for Lengo, his Snaga archers got caught out in the open. And the Forest Wardens, along with the Ents, are going to be able to destroy them quite handily. The Barrow Whites will hold their ground for basically ever, at least until they all die. And you can see some fire just being poured into the Hiri Peng. And it seems like Harad is going to move forward with their Mumakil as well in order to threaten the wing of Angmar. And it's going to be successful. They're going to run right through my spears, right through my Fountain Guard. My Fountain Guard are going to be okay. But I'm actually kind of okay with them being this close to my Fountain Guard, because the Fountain Guard are anti-elephant to the extreme with their AP. Only taking a little bit of damage there, which worked out quite nicely. Mostly this is just disruption on the part of Angsfits, and you can see some Spear Cavalry moving over here as quickly as possible to try and counter this threat. One thing to note about Spear Cavalry is that they have +4 versus elephants. So while they are not a replacement for melee cavalry, you can use them as very strong support units, and if you can bog down a giant target like the Mumakil and surround them, then you can potentially do some serious damage disproportionate to the cost of those 2 units. So it's definitely worth bringing Spear Cavalry units as support. Don't expect them to do the heavy lifting. That is for melee cavalry and for units like the Wargs. And speaking of the Wargs, really taking a beating right now as those Haradrim Raiders flee in the face of their charge. But this is where it gets real. My cavalry, they're just going to go for it. This is some Pelennor Fields level stuff. This Mumakil going to charge right through my cavalry, do so much damage to them. At the same time, all of that arrow fire is coming in, but luckily my ally, Lango, has my back. He's going to come in with his wargs. Wargs have very strong anti-elephant bonuses as well, and their armor piercing. So as these Mumakil get themselves bogged down, they are going to ultimately be defeated by this combination of anti-elephant cavalry. And this is in play precisely because not everybody has hard counters to Mumakil. So units like wargs, units like the Gondor cavalry are softer counters. If the Mumakil get a charge through them, they can absolutely decimate them, as you've seen here. But ultimately, we were able to bring down those mighty beasts, and now we've got a significant advantage on our side. I think this one is it's still alive. Might be fleeing, or it might be still under the control of Engsvitz. Over here on the line, the Elder Rinway cavalry trying to staunch the bleeding on their front line, as the forces of Angmar, along with their trolls and their barrow wights and all of their Tarpit units, slowly but surely manage to break up their line. Over here, oh, the poor Witch Realm Scourge Raiders taking a beating from the Sindar of the Girdle. I'm moving forward now with some support units to try and keep those units at bay. Meanwhile, over here, launching a quick offensive with my Axemen of Lasarnak, and you're going to see the extra charge damage of Shock Infantry here at work. Going to go down from 100 men down nearly 20 on that charge, and that is not the kind of attrition that Elven units can really stand up to. Unfortunately, my Axemen are a little bit unsupported because I did not take my Fountain Guard, who were supposed to follow this attack up along with my Gondor Spearmen out of their spear wall formation. So unfortunately, my Axemen of Lasarnak got a charge in there, but they're going to be extremely isolated, and they are very much on the verge of breaking. But that's okay. This is what shock units are meant to do. Charge in there, die, soften up your enemy. I think I might have taken a bite out of a couple different units there, so it ended up being reasonably worth it. Fury Peng just opening up into my Fountain Guard, who really are unprotected at this point, and now my offensive is fleeing, but that's okay. That's the first wave, and then meanwhile over here I got my Gondor Cavalry, and I can see so many of these Elven archers have just cropped up on my wing, and this is a threat that has to be answered, so I'm going to move forward now with my Gondor Cavalry, just to try and tie them down. We've taken down the Mumakil, they've done their job, and I've got the Sindar of the Girdle pretty well on the back foot. Enough archers that I can shoot them down, so I don't mind throwing my cavalry, especially my spear cavalry, at Elven units like this. So nice charge there from the front. You can see them pull out their swords. Again, I assure you, they are spear cavalry. That will change. Sylvan Patrol really taking it on the chin there with a second charge for my Gondorian cavalry. A lot of damage going into these units, and it is stopping them from firing for the time being, which is going to relieve a bit of the pressure on my poor Fountain Guard, who are just getting absolutely massacred. But I have no more infantry on this side that I can use to support them. Meanwhile, pushing forward with my Gondor Spearmen and my Gondor Infantry on the other side, mostly in response to the Doomsmen of Varda. You can see roading. French verbs making their way into my everyday English vocabulary. You can see lurking around in the back there, chasing off the Warg Riders. This is me trying to catch them out here if I possibly can. I got some Serpent Guard coming over this way as well. Want to menace all of these cavalry units concentrated on this side of the enemy's forces. Serpent Guard, however, are very swift, and they are going to escape. I'm going to catch a few of them, be able to take them down, but they're going to run into, I think, into their own Mumakil and end up getting trapped. So a little bit of a mistake there on the part of Engsvitz. Easy one to make, however. Got the Red Shield of Verkenbrand, some of the Rohirrim Cavalry, however, supporting my wing, and that's going to make this charge of the Serpent Guard ultimately a very perilous affair. He's going to trade some Serpent Guard for some Snug Archers, and it's just not going to be a good exchange. Meanwhile, over here, the Elven forces, because of their quality, starting to pull it back a little bit on the wings when the Angmar forces now on the back foot. And I came in like a wrecking ball in the center with my Gondorian reserves, and Peak's army is being thoroughly overwhelmed. I came in about the same time as the Ents, but unfortunately there isn't enough Elven infantry left to support the Ents, so they're going to find themselves very isolated. And ultimately, my Gondorian infantry and my forebears of Valakirka are going to be able to take them down. Elders of the Elven King and the rest of the Mirkwood army really giving me the business on my other wing. You can see a heavy concentration of Forest Wardens here, well poised to overwhelm my Gondorian reinforcements, even though they are stiffened by some Goblin Back from Angmar. Got some Palace Guard over here. This is going to be a hopeless fight unless we get some support. Meanwhile, over here, you can see more and more Elven Archers coming out of hiding. I do still have a trick up my sleeve, however. Got my Carandros Marksmen, who are no joke in melee, upgraded as well to give them a little bit of extra damage. Trying to focus down these Sindar of the Girdle and these large blobs of Elven targets that are just presenting themselves. Ooh, nice point-blank volley into the Sindar of the Girdle. Gonna manage to fell a few of them. This is not gonna be a fight that they win. My Carandros Marksmen are gonna take some damage off the charge and from the incoming Elven bowfire. But ultimately, a small number of Sindar like this will be defeated by my Marksmen of Carandros. Meanwhile, the rest of the skirmish line over here having a field day with the lightly armored Elves of Mirkwood. Largely due at least in part, to our position up here on a hill. Sorry about that, guys. Got my Veterans of Osgiliath firing down as well. Hiri Peng getting butchered before they can get themselves in the close quarters. They're now down to nearly half strength. They're going to be a little bit less by the time they manage to make it to the top of that hill. Let's pop on over to the other side. How is Rohan doing? Rohan and Dol Amroth are kind of playing for time at the moment, and Engsvitz is able to be very aggressive, trying to dominate this cav fight, but it seems like the purpose of this delaying tactic is to try and strip their enemies of their cavalry resources. I don't know if they have any idea what's going on our side of the fight, but it is something that will be significant a little bit later on if they are able to do this. Serpent Guard in combat against the Parathil Horse Guard. Says the Parathil were losing, but honestly, this is not a fight the Serpent Guard are going to win. Formidable though they are, we're going to see some breakage there. Outnumbered, getting beaten in combat, and then hit with a volley of arrows. Riders of Bruinen trying to cover their retreat, so hopefully these 12 Serpent Guard will reform. Parathil Horse Guard giving chase, but they're walking right into a massacre as those Elven Archers fire directly into their rear. Another small company of Serpent Guard over here about to be enveloped by the Dol Amroth cavalry, and Harad is going to need to retreat out of there lest he lose another company of Serpent Guard. They're going to manage to get off scot-free. It looks like the Mumakil over here says that they're reforming. I think it just means that they're dead. Haven Knights charging now into the Norityrna Warriors as Peak finds himself, well, not at his peak. In any case, the High Elves have been thoroughly beaten by a combination of teamwork from at least 3 different armies. The Doomsmen of Varda, however, still standing tall. And they're going to be a problem for me. I can see them coming, but I turn around with some of my pikes, try and throw some of my lower tier units I don't mind losing at them, just try and drown them in a sea of bodies, and hope that I get lucky. See my Garrison Archers here of Ramasekar mounting a charge into the Doomsmen of Varda. Not going to do much, but it might hurt a little bit. Ooh, and there goes the High Elven General. I think he actually got caught by some of the Gundabad Guard there, and he ends up getting his retreat cut off by my forebears of Valakirka, and the Doomsmen of Varda running the risk of being routed. They are ultimately going to escape from that, however, and it looks like the other unit of Elite Elven Cav, the Eldarinway Standard Bearers, have been felled as well. On this end, my Axemen have done their duty. This is more than I expected them to be able to accomplish. And the Forest Wardens here looking a little bit worse for wear. Over on this side, got some Veterans of Osgiliath fighting with the Hiri Peng and the Forest Wardens. You can really see the quality of the Veterans of Osgiliath right here. Helped a little bit by some reinforcements and, of course, a slight hill advantage. But nonetheless, they are managing to hold their line against some pretty formidable Elven units. Over here have the remnant of Amon Lank, no longer the Outer Dearth Amon Lank, hacking their way through the ranks of my Marksmen of Carandros, stiffened a little bit with some Garrison Archers of Ramasekar, but this is a fight that they are ultimately going to win. Got some more Sylvan Patrol over here, and a second company of Sylvan Patrol, I think, who still have ammunition. And I really don't have anything left at this point to try and corral and destroy those units, so I'm going to try and deal with their elites and the main body of their infantry. I have some reinforcements now shifting over from my left wing to help out my right. My Gondor infantry going to charge in there. And that's going to be enough, I think, to overwhelm the Forest Wardens. So they were pulling it back a little bit, but this is not a fight that the Elves are really equipped to win at this point. Some forebears of Valakirka have come in to try and hold the Forest Wardens back. Meanwhile, got some Fountain Guard charging in, and a second company of Gondorian Spearmen maneuvering their way around the back. We're going to go for a full surround on the Mirkwood Wardens, and that's going to be all she wrote for them. Popping back on over to the center, and this is what I mean by this 300 level stuff. Keepers of Aglos, you're going to be seeing a lot of them. They're going to be here for quite some time. I've even got some Fountain Guard in there trying to deal with these guys. And some Spears of Rivendell fighting alongside the Keepers of Aglos. Give +5 morale to nearby units. So anything near them is pretty well going to fight to the death. The last remnant of the High Elven line really putting up a valiant struggle. Meanwhile, over here, Dol Amroth and Rohan looks like they're going for a frontal confrontation with the forces of Harad, trying to make use of their civilians. Their civilians are not a reliable fighting force in the slightest. Arthedain is here as well, got a lot of shield wall units. Arthedain marksmen now out of ammunition, and the Evening Marchers as well out of ammo, forming up the first line, inflicting some pretty heavy casualties on the Eastmark Spearmen. Ooh, where's that gonna land? Frying that fallen Haradrim. Westmark Marshals moving in, that's gonna turn the tide. Even the Marchers are not gonna have fun against these units at all. Ooh, getting shot in the back by their own comrades. Could see the Even Marchers rout off nearly immediately as those casualties begin to mount against this elite shock unit. And indeed, we are gonna see them break. Westmark Marshals over here gonna make mincemeat of the Arthedain marksmen. Civilians now fleeing from the battle as they do. The Haradrim force is victorious. And now it remains to be seen what Dol Amroth and Rohan can do against these units, because it seems like some of the remnants of Imladris have joined Harad and Arnor, or Arthedain, I should say, and there's a lot of spears, a lot of javelins, and a lot of quality infantry like the Dune 9 Peacekeepers. I don't think, especially with this hill advantage, this is a fight that Rohan is going to be able to win unaided. Harad kind of conducting their own offensive, however, with some elements of Rekraeus' army charging deep into the heart of the broken Rohirrim lines, following up on the gains that they made after routing the civilians. Eastmark Spearmen here, gonna toss they javies. Let's see if they get any kills. Ooh, good shot there into the Evening Spearmen. Fair amount of them are gonna flee. Dismounted Serpent Guard aren't gonna let that attack go unanswered, and they're gonna charge on into the Eastmark Spears. One volley there from the Rohan Spearmen into the Dismounted Serpent Guard, gonna claim many of them. But like I said, lower tier javelins. Ooh, they are getting shot from behind though. Some really nice tactics here on the part of DI. Really knows how to prioritize the more deadly enemy units with his limited resources. Up here, cavalry fight still raging. A little bit of a back and forth. It looks like some more Haradrim managed to deal a pretty substantial defeat to the Red Shield of Erkenbrand, which is quite surprising. Meanwhile, over here, we're trying to clean up the remaining elements of Mirkwood and Imladris. Of course, the Keepers of Aglos are still there. I've now consolidated my gains, but we do have a unit of knights running around, being an absolute nuisance. You can see them right there, the Doomsmen of Varda. Peak is not going quietly into that good knight. He's going to make us pay for every step of ground. It seems like he's trying to assassinate the Witch Realm of Angmar's general, which would be a very heavy blow to Angmar indeed. Got some Gondor infantry moving over in support, but I don't want to have them go alone, so of course I've got a couple units of my forebears of Valakirka, along with my Fountain Guard. I want to hunt those knights down, and I want to destroy them as quickly as possible. Angmar looking really worse for wear. I got some Guardians of Karn Doom, of course, those Snaga Stalkers that we saw earlier. Meanwhile, I'm trying to destroy the remaining elements of the Mirkwood army. Some Sylvan Patrol here, going to move on a little bit later and destroy those Hiri Peng. But of course, the Doomsmen of Varda, always an ever-present threat, seeking for any opportunity that they can find to deal substantial casualties, and 7 is no joke. They are down from 33, I believe, but 7 of them can really be a pain in your rear, and we're going to see that right now with the Barrow Whites, who are previously winning this fight, going to get absolutely annihilated. Now the Keepers of Aglos going to be winning. And seeing this, I know that I have to pull off and help my ally. We don't want to let those Keepers of Aglos get loose. That's a big problem, and they are a substantial anvil for the hammer of the remaining Doomsmen of Varda. A situation that we want to avoid at all costs. Now a charge there into the Barrow Whites, leaving many of them dead ×2 on the battlefield. Doomsmen of Varda lost at least one of their number. Glorfindel, however, is still leading this unit. Really beautiful unit model there by our Arthalion, I believe his name is. Barrow Whites trying to react to this, trying to keep those Keepers of Aglos surrounded. Got some Angmar halberds nearby. My reinforcements coming to try and chase off the Doomsmen of Varda. And at this point, we call in our allies, because we don't have anything to answer the Doomsmen of Varda. We can't shoot them down. I don't have any archers left. I have no cavalry left, and neither does Angmar. and they're just running roughshod over a lot of our units. You can see some of these goblin trackers here. There used to be about 50 of them in the unit getting routed. And these snug archers are not going to fare a whole lot better. And you can see another small rout here. Oh, maybe not. Not so far. But believe it, the Doomsmen of Varda are going to be able to rout these guys no problem. So we need our allies. I think they've got some spare cavalry over here, so we're going to see these guys jump into action in just a few moments. But let's see how things are faring for Rohan versus Arthedain and Harad. Not so great. Rohan is holding them back. It is worth saying. Ooh, the Westmark Marshals here just getting drowned in a sea of javelins. Looks like the Mahud Beast Hunters, or Beast Tamers, whichever one throw javelins, are sinking their claws into the Westmarks. Second volley there, going to follow that up. These poor Westmarks really are so vulnerable to this kind of thing. Meanwhile, Recrea is slowly grinding down Rohan, but I have to say, and I think I was trying to get to this earlier, I'm impressed with how the Rohan infantry is faring in this context. Keeps the Golden Halls from Riddermark Archers. They still have a second line, and a lot of these units are not completely worthless in melee either. I still got the support of Dol Amroth. Haven Knights, ooh, getting cut down by a combination of cavalry, archers, and javelins. And it seems like maybe Rules is going to try and go for the Hashari, which is not a bad idea. Gonna get that charge off. Oh, take down some of the Hashari stalkers. But they are so heavily outnumbered. Grey Company charging into the rear as well. But I don't know if these guys are going to be able to stand. Even the mighty Haven Knights might see a rout here. Surrounded on all ends. Indeed, they are going to break and fight to the death. Did he just switch to like two-handed animations, or am I crazy? That's neat. Didn't know that they could do that. And there you have it. The Haven Knights have breathed their last. And Arthedain and Harad are still looking really strong. This is a big problem for us. And Rohan down here in the valley is just suffering in this war of attrition. They have held their ground remarkably well for a horse-based faction. Well, this is ultimately not a fight that they're going to be able to win unaided. So what we need to do is shut down all that remains of the elements of Mirkwood and Marauders. But still, these Keepers of Aeglos are holding out. Got some more Fountain Guard in there to try and finish the job. But now it's going to be on us to regroup, reform, and move to the aid of our allies because they are really suffering right now. Although it is worth mentioning that Harad, I think, is mostly numbers at this point. They do still have some Serpent Guard, a fairly healthy unit of Serpent Guard, in fact. But a lot of these units are South-Run Archers, Haradrim Spearmen, and some Mahud Beast Hunters as well, who I think are going to be out of ammunition shortly. But really, the meat and potatoes of the remaining infantry forces for the red team, it falls to Arthedain and their dismounted 4 Array Knights, and of course the Dunedain Peacekeepers. 14 damage on the Dunedain Peacekeepers and a significant amount of melee defense. I believe about 9 or 10 make them a very, very difficult unit to break down, especially in the later stages of the game when all you have are lower tier infantry who are very tired. Oh, and there goes the Dol Amroth General, cut down by the not the Grey Knights, the what is this, Warhammer? No, by the Grey Company. It's gonna be some time before we're able to fully destroy the Keepers of Aeglos. There goes the Mirkwood General, and I think we've scattered all the remnants of his army so far. And now the rest of my forces are making their way back. So we're gonna go ahead, kick it into full speed here, maybe even a little bit faster. Keep a close eye on this game between Rohan. So DI actually has a lot more Sons of Eorl. One thing to note is that things can get caught on Mumakil. Something you want to pay attention to. Otherwise your units won't be where you need them to be when you need them. Ooh, and they're going to go after the Serpent Guard, because of course they are. They're going to miss the charge a little bit. The Serpent Guard, pretty well unmolested, are going to be able to make it into combat against the Eastmark Spearmen. And that's going to seal the fate of the remaining Rohan infantry. Got the Spearmen and the Riddermark Archers working in tandem, but against dedicated melee specialists like the dismounted Serpent Guard, that's going to be no problem. Ooh, what do we got here? Guards of the Havens being destroyed. Not the best use of those of the remaining javelins. Certainly not something that I would do. Way too much risk of friendly fire. What I got in the back here. Keepers of the Golden Hall, absolutely massacred. The Riders of Bruinen, oh, really took that on the chin. A beautiful volley there. Try and shut down that remaining Imladris cavalry. Parathil Randirum, not going to let that assault go unanswered. We're going to chase the Riders of the Bruinen out of there, although ultimately they will find themselves a little bit isolated. They're going to turn around, charge headlong into the dismounted Serpent Guard, inflict a few casualties, nothing major. Ooh, and they're going to suffer quite grievously in return. Countercharge by the Riders of the Bruinen. That's going to be the end, I think, of the Parathil Randirum. Let's see what they managed to get up to. Down to 3. Yeah, this is game over. I think got some black serpents there. Is that what I'm seeing? Yeah, a couple of black serpents. Haradrim infantry in their numbers, overwhelming and overrunning what remains of Rohan. Shield Maidens of Eowyn, now halfway decent units when it comes to melee. Rules and DI, great teamwork here to try and stem the tide, but ultimately I think this is a doomed endeavor. Luckily for them, however, help is on the way. Angmar has gotten their remaining forces together, some Snagastalkers, some Halberds, and a few Guardians of Karn Doom. Actually, they're going to quickly fall back and move to support the much larger Gondorian force under myself, forming up on this hill. Got both of my remaining units of pikemen here and my Gondor infantry forming a front line, and everyone else still coming in. We've almost finished off the Keepers of Aeglos, which is going to free up some Spearmen and, of course, some Fountain Guard. 25 Fountain Guard ain't no joke, even at this late stage in the game. Let's just take a brief look. Look at the mess here. Complete chaos on my side of the battle, which is how I love it. That center fight, Angmar versus my center, and or Angmar and my center versus Imladris, was ultimately too much for the Elves of Rivendell to hold on. Just a damn good game, and look at that, nearly evenly matched at this stage. So everyone's just gathering what little forces remain to them, and yeah, just looking for those little victories that will lead up to a significant, ultimate, and greater victory. Got some Mahud Beast Hunters here being routed by the Shield Maidens, still very healthy, and the combination of Keepers of the Golden Hall as well. Over here, Recrius' first wave, and some of the remaining Haradrim forces putting up a last gasp effort to destroy the Rohirrim. Some civilians have come back, being strangely useful. Ooh, the Black Serpent Bodyguard assassinating Theoden inside of his general of the Keepers of the Golden Hall. And it's just chaos and bedlam. Both sides dealing some significant damage to one another. Arthedain has moved in, and it looks like they're prepared to take on my exhausted and battered forces as they descend the hill with a few, just handfuls of Angmar infantry in tow. This is going to be a hell of a showdown. Meanwhile, over here, it seems like the Haradrim are losing ground, but some Hashari Stalkers up there are going to make up for it. Nice charge here by the Great Company into the Shield Maidens of Eowyn. These ladies, I should say, are in danger of routing, especially with that damage coming down from on high from the Rangers on Overwatch. And there you have it, Shield Maidens, a very significantly... a unit with a lot of potential in this battle and at this late stage in the game being routed off the field. Ultimately, I don't think those ladies are going to reform. And Rohan is in a lot of trouble. They have some cavalry left. Sons of Eorl, 24 Sons of Eorl is a really big investment. But this is looking grim for both sides. The Serpent Guard is still fighting valiantly in the thick of things, down to 15, but a charge from the Sons of Eorl is going to decimate them. And I think this pocket of Haradrim infantry is ultimately going to be defeated. 28... I want to call them Eowyn Shield Maidens, but I'm really struggling with what I have in front of me. Shield Maidens of Eowyn. One of the few remaining Rohan infantry units getting the much-needed support. Ooh, what do you know? These ladies came back. They're going to get thrown into the fray immediately, try and deal with some of these Haradrim units trying to surround the Keepers of the Golden Hall. Their general has fallen, but these brave defenders of Meduseld are going to go for vengeance. Ooh, and the Mahud Beast Hunter is going to take that on the chin. And it's going to be game over for them. And the Haradrim have suffered a defeat. Against all odds down here, the Rohirrim have stood their ground. Though they are extremely battered. They have no hope of launching an assault on the forces arrayed against them up on the hill. not without a little bit of support. So I actually moved forward a little bit too far, and you can see a small trail of dead Gondorians, mostly thanks to the Hashari Stalkers. Not something that we want to mess around with. And Arthedain still has some cavalry as well. They have some great company. There's still some Imladris units in the fight. Royal Court of House Amlaith making a last stand along with their allies. And this is where it gets pretty crazy. The Aratherum of Dol Amroth. If you have missed them for a battle from this battle, that has been for a very good reason. Rules has kept a lot of his cavalry in reserve. Not only does he have a unit of full-strength knights, also got a couple units of Knights of the Silver Swan. In addition to, here they are, the Parathil Wanderers of Nimrodel. So we got some Rangers still in the fight. So this is another wave coming in, and we are just waiting to launch this assault. So Dol Amroth Cavalry is going to spearhead the attack. They're just going to go for it. They're going to wipe out, I think, one of the Doomsmen of Varda still remaining. And they're going to charge headlong into the Rodham Spearmen. These units have a lot of melee defense. It's one of the things that keeps them alive, despite their being so small. And they're just going to charge right through those low-tier spearmen. And they're going to try and bully the Hashari Stalkers a little bit. And that's going to give me some time to move forward more or less unmolested, trying to keep my units together so that my pikes in particular will be getting the shield value from my infantry. But unfortunately, it's not going to happen. I think that the Hashari Stalkers will be able to get off a shot. Although not at me, it seems. They're going to be going after the cavalry that is currently running roughshod all over their backlines. The Aratherum of Dol Amroth, very bold, but they have taken some significant casualties so far. About 5 or so men dead already. There goes, I think, the Arthedain general getting sniped out by... yes, indeed. The Royal Court of House Amlaith losing their general and breaking immediately. Combined might of the Sons of Eorl and the Knights of the Silver Swan. The backlines of Arthedain are very much compromised, and at the same time, my forces are going to arrive on scene. So the poor forces of Arthedain under Recrius being hit from basically every side all at once. This is going to be a lot for them to deal with. Now, normally these Peacekeepers would be able to beat my tired forces, especially with that slight hill advantage. Nice charge into the rear, however, from the Knights of the Silver Swan. Now the Doom Knight Peacekeepers are going to be in danger of routing, and indeed they are going to break, despite their, like, 16 or something morale. They have so much morale. They are going to break under that pressure, and we're going to see it admit defeat. Elsewhere, the Doom Knight Peacekeepers were holding their ground, but with everything coming for them, a couple units of Knights, all this cavalry, ultimately Recrius is going to see which way the wind is blowing and admit defeat. A damn fine game. Ultimately, the percentage is a little bit skewed, about 10% difference there. But damn, was that a fun game. So much teamwork from both sides. It really makes me happy. I will say that on a personal note, these kinds of games make me genuinely happy. Because we work hard to try and make this game balanced, to make it fun, and to just make it something that people want to play. And when you have games like this that are so close and really just come down not to like an OP unit or something, but come down to teamwork and to tactics, it's just such a fun, it's just such a good experience. It makes me feel like we've done our job really well, and I hope you guys agree. This is one of my favorite battles to come out of 0.97. Not quite as good as the last one, where everyone finished with 100% of their army slain, but it was a damn fine game. So well played to everybody involved. Let's see. I really want to know how much my X-Men of Lasarnak managed to get. So 57 kills off that one unit, 31 off the other. That's the one I think that got routed a little bit early on. But they did manage to soften up the Mirkwood Elves, who didn't have a ton of infantry to begin with, so it was okay use of them, I think. Fountain Guard, not getting a huge amount of kills. None of my units really got a ton of kills, but again, we were fighting 2 Elven factions, and 2 fairly small Elven factions at that. So all of these kills are pretty high quality. But in any case, my name is Jordan, also known as J-Monster. I hope you enjoyed another 0.97 preview, and I hope you join me for whatever comes next. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye!